No, I was only about 11 years old at that time. You couldn't expect me to really understand whether there was strong opposition or not. So the first Panglong conference was in 1947, and it came about because of the funeral of my mother.
Right.
When my mother passed away in 1945, the Sobas came to attend her funeral, and they discussed about this, and then they decided to hold a meeting in Panglong, which is in Laika State. And so that's where the first meeting was held. And but it was only at the second meeting in 1947 that the agreement was reached.
Right.
The first one was in 46, I think.
And that agreement was?
The agreement was to have a union and for these states to have autonomy, and to ensure that they have autonomy, they were given the right to secede after 10 years.
Okay. And your father was happy with that situation?
Yeah, he also was one of those who signed the agreement. No?
Right.
You have the people who signed the agreement in that Panglong agreement document, which you can see in almost every publication. Yeah. And when they decided to select someone to represent the frontier areas in the Burmese cabinet, the rulers of the larger states thought they were the ones who should be selected. So there was a little bit of delay in the selection of the Shan, but the Kachins and the Chins, they supported my father.
Right.
And one Shan, his name is Kunchapu, he said, when even the Kachins and the Chins have selected one Shan, why can't the Shans also back him?
Right.
And so he was finally selected as the councillor for the frontier areas. And he had as his deputy one Kachin and one Chin.
And that was in 47.
47. Before independence could be gained, when he was sitting in a cabinet meeting with Gen Aung San as the chief minister, still under the British government, they were assassinated.
Yes.
On the 19th of July, 1947.
How old was your father at that time?
He was 42. He was older than Gen Aung San.
But it was a very young sort of cabinet.
Yeah.
And your father wasn't killed outright?
He died the next day.
Right.
He was shot through the mouth, I think, and the bullet went out through the neck.
Right.
And when the doctors rushed in, there was one doctor who was a young doctor at that time. Later he became the chief pathologist in Burma.
Right.
And he told me that when the doctors rushed to him, he said, take care of the other ones, they are more seriously injured than me.
Right.
And so they went and looked after the others who were not savable. And then they took him to hospital, and he lasted until the next day.
Right.
And this doctor said, with later techniques and so on, they could have saved his life. Right. But in those days, they didn't have anything.
So there was nothing that was treacherous that happened in the hospital?
No. He passed away the next day.
Yeah, it's just sort of lack of modern
facilities, and medication, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, that must have turned your life on its head.
Yeah, I was at that time I was attending school in St. Anne's Convent, Kalji, another nun another school run by Roman Catholic nuns. And we had to go down to Rangoon. They took us by train, and the train was delayed in Tazi, and we spent the night in the train.
Right.
And the next day we came down to Rangoon, and my father was laid down in that Jubilee Hall, right, in Rangoon.
Were you Buddhist, your family?
Yeah, we were Buddhist.
So there was no pressure to convert by the nuns?
No. He was shot through the mouth, and the bullet came out through the neck.
Okay.
Then he must have lost a lot of blood while they were attending other people who had been killed instantly.
That was a tragedy for Burma.
Yeah, because the people who understood what had been agreed were all wiped out. Yeah.
Was Ne Win behind that? There was talk about that.
Yeah, there were talk about that, but no one can be sure. There was someone who lives in Canberra,
right,
and whose father was one of the judges in those days. I think he wrote a book called Who Killed Aung San,
right,
and he seemed to suspect someone.
Well, he certainly gained from it.
Yeah.
Benefit.
Yeah. And some people even suggested that there was an attempt on Uso's life. Uso was the prime minister during the British rule,
right,
and during the Japanese occupation he was abroad. When he came back, he thought he would be the prime minister, but someone attempted to assassinate him, and the assassin shot the window in front of his car, and I think a piece of glass hit his eye and made him go blind in one eye.
right.
And some people were suggesting that the assassin was supposed not to kill him, just to make him angry at
Right.
At
The opposition.
At the opposition.
Right.
So he was the one who organized the assassination. So it may have been someone else who made sure that he would assassinate them,
Right. So
but not directly.
It was third hand.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
So
the
if you got somebody
implication.
who shot at Uso
Without killing
make
him.
him angry.
Without killing him.
Aung San's group.
Yeah.
Who would the third hand be?
Yeah. I wouldn't know.
Did
Yeah.
the British have a role there? Or?
Could have been. Yeah. Who would know?
Yeah.
Some people were saying that the British were the ones who supplied all the ammunition for Uso.
Right.
Yeah, I think that came out in the inquiries afterwards.
Why would they do that? What would they benefit from?
If they were imperialists and they wanted to hold on to the colony, that would be the reason for it.
And they had intention to do that, you think, at that time?
I suppose at that time they were saying that the Conservatives were still in power in Britain, and the independence was granted only after a change of government.
Right. And would Uso be more sympathetic to the British than Aung San?
Well, I don't know anything about
trade.
Uso. Yeah, I don't know anything about Uso. Yeah.
So that must have changed your family dynamic quite a bit.
Of course, yeah. I became an orphan.
Right.
Yeah. No father, no mother.
Your mother died at this point too?
My mother died in 45.
45.
And it was because of a funeral that they got together.
Yeah.
So
So
we
who took over your schooling at that point?
At that point, no. First, we took my father's body back to our state,
Right.
and we had a funeral there where the other rulers came to attend it, and I, as the son, was the one who lighted the pyre, the funeral pyre, and then we had a bit of his ashes brought down to the Martyrs Mausoleum in Rangoon.
Right.
But he was actually cremated in Mongpawn.
Right. So his ashes now lie in the martyr.
Just a little bit of it. No, the rest of it is still in
And Aung
Mongpawn.
San's ashes also there?
Aung San, I think, may have been just buried there. No,
Right.
he was not cremated.
So all the martyrs were...
Were there, yeah.
Okay. That's...
But now I'm not sure whether... No, there was an assassination attempt by a North Korean at the Martyrs Mausoleum.
Right.
So the mausoleum got blown up, the roof of the mausoleum got blown up, and they redesigned it. I don't know what happened after that. I've not been back
That's
there.
quite ironic now that Burma is doing lots of trade with North Korea.
North Korea, yeah. Buying all those missiles and... yeah.
And what formed your politics?
Well, after my parents passed away, I went to live with my maternal uncle, Sao Hso, and he was the deputy prime minister and foreign minister under UNU. So when in 1960 I decided to go into politics, of course I joined his party in the Shan State.
And how old were you then?
At that time I was over 25.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was called the United Hill People's Congress, was the original one which my father belonged to.
Right.
Yeah? But the party that I entered into was the Shan State United Hill People's Congress. Yeah. So because the others, the Kachins and the Chins had left the Congress. They had their own parties in their own states. But in the Shan States, we still call it the Shan State United Hill People's Congress. And I was elected as a member of parliament representing the Shan State in the Chamber of Nationalities.
Right.
And that year, 1960, Burma is a member of the United Nations, and every year they send a delegation to the United Nations, and to give the constituent states at least a chance to attend, they give them one member by turns to be in the delegation. And that year it happened to be the Shan State's turn. And my colleagues in the Shan State Parliament elected me as the delegate to the United Nations in 1960. So I attended the 15th session of the UN General Assembly in 1960. And
that was in New York?
In New York.
Yeah.
I went there, and Khrushchev was there. He brought all his... Yeah?
Did you get to meet him?
Yeah, when I was passing him in the corridor, and they had special security guards for him.
Right.
And I tried to take out my identity card because the security guard was looking at me.
Right.
And he came and bumped into me because he thought I was trying to
pull a gun or something.
Pull a gun or something. Yeah. And then when I showed him my identity card, he said, yeah, it's okay, you can go. But what happened there that was interesting to me was that he brought all his minions along.
Right.
And one of them was Fidel Castro.
Okay.
Yeah. And he came in and he was dressed in fatigues. And he addressed the General Assembly for 6 hours.